This is the Christmas lecture. All the people that were desperate for gifts, I think, are here today. There's 161 presents that have been donated by the companies. So most people should have, a lot of people should have a chance to win something. Now, there's part 2 of that. If you Google part 2 of that headlines, you can get the rest of that. It was very good. To argue with a 40-year neurosurgeon is tough because he knows the stuff. And this has been a unique lecture. They trusted me with the clicker this lecture. I have. Where this could go, nobody knows. Well, I got the clicker, it's right. I got to, clarify this spring topic because lots of things are called autoimmune diseases. Some people have simple things, some people have complicated things, and some people are going to die from them. I've seen all 3 kinds. I've seen, one of my patients that was in was an anesthetist today from Beaumont, and we're trying to get this rheumatoid arthritis under control, and she was forced to get a flu shot, and the flare-up that she had was crushing. I'm trying to dig her out of this mess. Derek, back there. Can you find them, get some air on in here before people start passing out? The Americans are weak people, you know. So it's going to be a complicated subject. It's something that we have a lot of blood work on, and I'm going to bring these cases and the blood work in because this is something that they're making worse every day. This body attacking itself. The migraines, the headaches, the joints, the chronic fatigue syndrome, et cetera, et cetera. So this will be a difficult lecture, but it's one that has to be done because the people are losing ground because their immune systems are collapsing. And there's lots of things doing it. I'm not going to set this thing down. Dr. Jeff is doing a lecture on top 25 herbs and how they can benefit you, and Wednesday, January 25th. It'll be a good time, and he does a great job with this, and the patients are enjoying their education on how to take care of yourself. Learning how to muscle test. I am not a good teacher. I'm the kind of person that says, just watch. To sit and walk people through A, B, C. That was 31 years ago, so I move pretty fast. Dr. Jeff is going to take you on some introductory things. How to test some simple things, how to use this in your life. I have used this at home. Determining food that was spoiled was pretty easy to spot. Simple tests for your pharmaceuticals and your supplements to see what things might work and what things might not work. And that'll be January 3rd. You got to call for reservations because it's going to be a small group. And my staff told me to tell you that you can look at our website, free shipping on orders over $75, and I was told today you can get this lecture, which is going to be a complicated lecture, on DVD for the month of December with an online order over $100, they said. So for the people interested in the topic of neurotransmitters, and the marketing of madness is for the people seriously interested in understanding the brain, psychiatry, medications, pharmaceuticals. It's quite an incredible 2 hours and 57 minutes. It's out very well done. So anybody who works with this for a living, that might be something that you'd find fascinating and interesting. The Marketing of Madness. You can find it on YouTube for free. This Christmas, I've tried to make sure that people didn't bring me things, and they supported the less fortunate, the widows, the orphans, the homeless. This is a tough year for lots of people. It's like the haves and haves not are getting farther apart. Wall Street's part of the haves, and the rest of you are the have-nots. Try to encourage people to avoid the big box stores. Try to support the local guys the best you can. There's a lot of local store owners trying to make it against the Black Friday China mob, stomping people to death for slave labor stuff. They're not going to hold me down in front of this, but they're going to hold Dr. Jeff down in front of this. Nope. So we have a lot of long-distance patients. So there's going to be some Skype follow-ups. You can call the office to schedule this. And I'm sure I will eventually have to do some of these because I have lots of out-of-state patients. But Dr. Jeff's going to be handling them for now. I've been chomping at the bit to talk about Steve Jobs. I've been chomping at the bit. I have to get this off my chest because watching the Steve Jobs fiasco, it's obvious that Steve Jobs died because he saw an alternative practitioner months before. Is that what you heard on the news? Constantly? Steve Jobs died because he saw an alternative practitioner. Steve McQueen went to Dr. Kelly with 2 weeks left to live after he was decimated by the system. And it was Dr. Kelly killed Steve McQueen. So to watch how they played this, now, to take a person with a rare pancreas cancer, do Whipple surgery, then do a liver transplant, and put him on anti-rejection drugs to shut off his immune system, he didn't have a chance. I want to see somebody fight off a cancer on anti-rejection medications, and I've done a lot of lectures where I covered liver patients that have had outstanding results. A liver will take a tremendous amount of abuse. He would have done better supporting his liver, keeping it, not taking the medication. But the way, this is off of Mercola, there's a lot of people that were irritated how it was their fault. It was the vitamin guy that he saw. That's why he died. And that was played up constantly. That whole thing was a complete. Well, when you go home tonight, how long do you think it'll take you to see a drug commercial on TV if you turn on the news? Won't take you long. The next one, probably. So that was really a real mess. I hated to have to do this, but I had to do this. Isn't she? These are the people who have your life is in her hands. She's pretty normal looking, isn't she? She's a director of the CDC. In fact, she was the person that was hugely involved with the H1N1. I'd trust my life to her. She works for the government. I'm sure there's nothing she'd get into that would disqualify her from a government job, I don't think. CDC director arrested for child molestation and bestiality. And by the way, she was reinstated last week with her job. There's nothing that will disqualify you from a government job. Not only is this twisted puppy, she actually found a guy to help. And so this is, I hate to say this, but this is kind of where people in charge of our health picture. And I thought this was an interesting article. The full article's on the wall because I find this. See, there's a push on right now that's getting worse. And I'm really tired of this topic but it's getting worse. And I've seen it come on this year worse than I've ever seen before, and I don't know what's going to happen next year. So we're talking about today trying to cut your ties with organized medicine as much as you can. Do you realize it's against the law? The FDA forbids a mercury-containing vaccine for your pets or your farm animals. It's against the law to put mercury into dogs or cows. Not your children and not your pregnant wife. That's perfectly legal. It's the animals that can't have any forbidden. It's actually unbelievable. The full article's on the wall. You won't believe it, but the world's not making any sense now anyway. Now, did anybody see The Dirtiest Man in America? How many people saw that on cable? Steve, Micro, how many people here saw The Dirtiest Man in America? Raise your hand. Now, the rest of you haven't seen this. Now, I'd tell you right now, probably 60% of my practice could not watch that show. It's probably 60%. Gave people the absolute creeps, anybody that saw it. Somebody wrote into him and said, you know, why don't you do a thing on the filth that you come in contact with? So if anything would cancel this germ theory of disease thing where you all need to get shots and stuff, you should watch this. They went to this couple's home and followed him from the time he got out of bed. He went to the bathroom. He went number 2. Then he flushed the toilet. And they did a computer simulation of E. coli flying out of the toilet at 100 miles an hour. It covered every square inch of the bathroom. Everything. It was a waterfall of poop out of the toilet, a waterfall. And it landed on his toothbrush and everything else. Then they handed him the toothbrush and said, brush. And he's looking at the toothbrush, I don't want to brush with that. Yes, you have to brush with that. When he went number 1, the same thing happened. It was completely disgusting. And as he went through life, they swabbed him, they took little scrapings and grew him. And if anybody wanted to change how you view about germs causing disease, that show killed the immunization things by itself. It was absolutely incredible. So when it comes around, patients that saw it said, we were sitting on the edge of their chair because they were amazed at what was happening that they couldn't see. Now, it didn't take my wife long to find this. She had this. You can find these online. When you put it in the little thing and close it, there's a UV light right there. And you can close the lid, and it sterilizes your toothbrush for 6 minutes and then shuts off. It's very cool. So either put the lid down or get a toothbrush cleaner because you're up to your elbows in number 2. Have a nice day. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now, I have to mention this. This is a lot for the patients. I found that cantaloupe outbreak interesting because when you get food poisoning, you think about, what'd you eat yesterday? What'd you eat yesterday? Was it that chicken? Was it that egg? Was it that salad bar? What was it? Well, listeria, the cantaloupe thing, what does it say there? How many weeks did it take till you were sick? 4. So try to think what you ate. So for all the patients, we have at the office, ask about the food poisoning kit. You want this, on your shelf. Ask the staff in the front about that. Because today, you get behind an E. coli, a listeria thing. There's lots of people with colitis, they got irritable bowel syndrome, and people have been pooping blood, and they're sick. And The hospitals are mesmerized. We don't know why everybody's there's poop in the food. It's simple. There's E. coli all the time on the news. There's salmonella, there's listeria. This morning, I had one of the judge's wives for an adjustment. And it's kind of interesting on lecture day. She said, did you hear the thing on the news today about Whole Foods getting their organic produce from China? And it was a stuff marked, I think she said, with the 365 on the bag. And she was amazed at what they found in China's organic produce. The Chinese wouldn't lie to us. I'm sure they'd tell us the truth. It's kind of interesting. I had a lady I sent for a knee replacement. She was in Monday. This elderly woman has been seeing me for a lot of years. She wore her knee out. She comes in. She's been a great patient, gets some simple adjustments, and I sent her for a knee replacement because she needed it, and a lot of doctors do great jobs with knee replacements. So after knee replacement, she came in. She was dizzy. She was lightheaded. She couldn't stand up. Her blood pressure was like 90/60. She felt horrible. It was a mess. So she came in. She said, they don't know what's the matter with me. What's wrong? I said, well, they gave you too much anesthesia. She said, what do you mean? I said, they over-anesthetize you. They do it all the time. They gassed you. Blood pressure's 90/60. She can hardly stand up. I said, well, they do that a lot. And so $50-$60 for the stuff. She was in. I feel so much different. I feel great. Thank you. The dizziness is gone. My blood pressure's up. I shook all that out fine. My doctor calls you a quack. Okay? She said, I wanted to take all that literature that you have at your office so I could share this, and I forgot it at home, and I had an appointment with her, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, all right. The definition of a quack is somebody that charges you a tremendous amount of money for something that doesn't work. FDA just revoked the approval of avastatin. This has gone on a long time. It costs $100,000 a year to take this, and they said it doesn't prolong life for 1 second, and it basically helps kill you faster. That's being used today. Nobody listened to that. So maybe $100,000 worth of medication for something that shortens your life might more fit that. But who am I? This is very important for the women. I want the women to pay attention. This is very important. This is the latest study. Came out November 12th, last month. The Lancet. Now, I didn't say this because this is going to stir everybody up. I did not say this. So you make sure you look at where this is referenced. Many screen-detected invasive breast tumors spontaneously disappear when undiagnosed and untreated. They did tests. They found all these suspicious invasive breast tumors. Nobody's ever left them alone. So the Swedish mammography screening program, involving 650,000 women, there has been little to no research on what happens when they're left alone. Nobody's left them alone. And over that period of time, most of them disappeared. And that's the Lancet telling you this. This isn't one of those quack journals. This is like a real journal. This has kind of shocked the world, but they're hoping that you don't see this because there's quite an industry built up around this. And I have to, this is my, it was about a month ago. Is there a hole in this thing? You didn't put a hole in it. About a month ago, I'm running through the office like usual, and one of my 25-year patients was standing in the hall. She had a suspicious lump in her breast, and I didn't like it. I was concerned about it. It seemed to be growing, didn't hurt. Those suspicious lumps don't hurt. It was about this little smaller than a walnut, maybe a large marble. And I said, I want you to go to that famous cancer clinic in Michigan. And they're very good. And I'd like you to see if you can get this removed. Just get the whole thing taken out, get some clean margins, throw it away, see if you can get that done. So she goes there. They're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We have to biopsy it and run you through those. She said, I want the whole rigmarole. She said, I just want it done. So she comes in. She's hysterical in the hall. And as you know, anybody that's been in my office knows what it's like. As I run, she's standing by the front door waiting. Dr. Tent, you're not going to believe what they did to me. You got a story for your lecture. You're not going to believe this. And she's an articulate, intelligent businesswoman. She's computer savvy. She deals with the Chinese, her and her husband. So she was pretty fired up. So I tried to find a couple of minutes to talk to her, to find out she was unusually fired up. Let's see if I can get this. Good. I said, what happened, Jennifer? She said, well, I went, told them about this lump, and I said, look, I just want this thing removed. Let's get it out of here, et cetera, and I want to move on with my life. I don't want you to punch 10 holes in it, take a sabbatical, schedule me 3 months later, and we're going to study it and roll it around and play with it, and you're going to send it out to India or something. I just want this done. And the lady says, I don't need all these holes punched in it. And the nurses, we don't do this anymore. She said, we don't do this at all anymore. She said, we have very specialized biopsy needles. Now, if the nurses are here to do this, please help me. She said, it's a new coaxial needle. It's a very fine needle. It's a self-sealing needle, actually. We take this little tiny needle and we push it right up to that tumor, just barely touch it, and this little tiny filament goes in and takes just the tiniest piece out, and it's a self-sealing needle. So as they pull it out, it seals the wound right behind it, and nothing leaks. It's not going to spread. It's not going to leak. We guarantee it. She said, I don't believe you. She said, well, then they go get the radiologist. So he comes in, and she said, I'm going to find a needle. So she takes off to find a needle. She can't find a needle, but the radiologist came in. She said it was a 40-minute ordeal when I told them what I wanted and what I didn't want. So they got it all down that this tiny little needle was going to take a little piece. It was going to be self-sealing. They could send us out to the lab. She can get this thing removed, et cetera, et cetera. So she agreed, fine, we'll do this. I can handle this. This sounds good. So she got her arm overhead. Her friend's in the room with her. There's a screen. They're watching, they're guiding this whole thing with the screen. This is how you're treated today. She said, so the anesthetist comes in. We got to anesthetize the area before we do this. So she's sitting there. She's got her arm overhead. Her friend's sitting in the chair. They got the anesthetist there. And the guy walks in, takes that needle to anesthetize the area, and went poof. And she started screaming, that's not what I wanted. You said you weren't going to do this. This was how, and she came unwrapped on the table. This is how they numbed the area for Jennifer, so that they could take that tiny little piece that would seal a little, this. So Jennifer, she's going to see this. She'll see this. She wanted her story told. Well, Jennifer, there's your story. So now she's got a new battle. She's trying to get this taken care of. Jennifer's in the back. She's raising her hand. Raise your hand, Jennifer. Is that about pretty? Did I miss anything?
The only thing you missed is you said they only stuck it through me once. They stuck it through me 17 times.
Oh, she.
They told me it would just go up to it, is what they said.
See?
They stuck it all the way through 17.
Now, why would 17 punches in that suspicious tumor? So that they could sneak up on it with that little tiny needle. And I did not say the name of the place that did it. You can talk to Jennifer because they have enough money to have me killed before I get to the car. Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing that story. Yes?
There's just one other tip.
Yes?
The rest of the story is that St. Louis institution lost for 10 weeks those 17 samples around the country. And as a result, I haven't got test results back for 10 weeks. And so just a tip, if you're ever diagnosed or ever have a biopsy, manage your own health care. Get the FedEx numbers of the samples they send out. Keep track of where your samples are, because all I had to do was spend 2.5 hours on the phone, 17 phone calls later, and I found out that the institution had had them all along. Didn't know they had them. People hadn't logged them in. It's the price you pay for fabulous insurance.
You guys are lucky. You guys got the best insurance in the world. Catherine's making sure of it. Thermoscans, there's a thing about the thermoscans. TH1, TH2, there's a very suspicious breast cancer off of thermography. Next. Oh, I got it. I'm getting used to this next thing. This place, there's been in my 31 years in practice, I want you to put a big X through this place. They will no longer work with alternative practitioners. That's been a mess. We've been on the phone, so we've been trying to find an alternative for the women. It's right here. So cancel this one for all my old-time patients. That's the new one. It's out in Howell. I believe they're outside waiting to answer women's questions today. You can ask them prices. It has nothing to do with the office. They'll give you some tips on a thermoscan, et cetera, et cetera. This other place has been a complete problem. They want to work with the medical community only, and you can see what kind of care you're going to get from that. It's right here. You can Google this, breastcheckup.com, 866-MIT, MIT, scan. It's out in Howell. No pain or squeezing, etc. Now, of course, government considers testing anthrax vaccine in kids, but faces ethical questions. Now, they have to have the lawyers work out the details before we test that anthrax vaccine on your children. There's some details to work out. I can't. I don't know. My kids are here, both of them. They're in the back. They've never been to a pediatrician. They have never had a shot or a vaccine. No fluoride treatments, no mercury. People, one's just going to graduate CCS this year. The top agency had him only. They picked him out of his class, and it was worked at the Leo Burnett agency. So I don't have a bumper sticker on my car about an honor roll student. Dylan's flying a helicopter. You lost my son from being a chiropractor. He's in helicopter school. And the guy says, geez, your son, bright. He's going to learn to fly faster than any of the other kids. Derek was picked at, so when people say, your kids are bright. No, my kids are normal. Your kids are dulled. Kids are bright. The good Lord made quite an incredible, if it's nurtured and fed properly, you'd be amazing. They can talk, when they're 7. They don't need to, I'm seeing kids today that I can't believe what I see in a week. I never saw in 12 years of public school in Livonia. I have all the nurses right now getting full court presses, get a shot or lose your job. I have billers at Beaumont that have to get a shot or lose your job. They've been there 27, 28 years. I have occupational therapists that are in college. Get a shot or you can't ever become an occupational therapist. So the line in the sand, what are you going to do? I'm going to tell you young kids, you better try to work for yourself so you have some control of your future and your destiny. I had some patients that are here. They went traveling. they texted me. This is from my patients that have been around for a long time in my lectures. They were shocked. At the Atlanta airport, they got off. There was vaccine stations throughout the whole airport. And they were shocked. So all these people were lined up for all these shots. Then you get on a plane to Utah, and everybody's coughing and sneezing and hawking and spreading this special new respiratory juice all over them. They're trying to hold their breath for 4 hours till they landed in Utah. And I texted them back. They were horrified. So the text went to my wife. She sent it to me. And I texted them back, Soylent Green is people. Then, this is the week of my birthday, which will remain, anonymous. So I had to go to the DMV, the Department of Motor Vehicles, to renew my license. So as I'm sitting there watching Larry Moe and Curly at the counter, I texted back to my wife, Soylent Green should be people. I want to ask a question. I got to ask a question about this. Now, I have a lot of old-time regulars in 31 years, and a lot of them here in the crowd. I want to address this to the people who've never been here before, the people here for their first time. I got to ask you something, because I can't really say this to the new people in the office, because ABC News has drowned out any reasoning ability in their head. I got to ask you a question. They took all your jobs. They took your houses. They stole the United States Treasury. They took your manufacturing, sold you free trade. Free trade. NAFTA is going to make things better. It's really good if you send all your jobs overseas. Things will be better. Your kids are mumbling. The old people think they're Napoleon. The roads are a complete toilet. The infrastructure's crumbling. Or carpet bombing innocent civilians all over the world. It's humanitarian bombing, I want you to know. And after all this, it's time to line up and get your shots because we care about you. Something is not hitting here. Time for your shots. Because we love you, and we're really concerned that you stay healthy. It just registers to so many people, I just can't explain it anymore. I don't understand. Make sure that you keep thinking out there, because things are getting kind of strange. We're going to cover live virus, right at the corner there. Does this thing work? Live virus infections at the bottom, at the autoimmune lecture. They found that the pharmaceutical industries and interests are ghostwriting all the articles about vaccinations. The Journal of Virology said children's flu vaccine will weaken the immune system. That's what our goal is going to be. Old people will have more side effects from the new vaccine, and that's in the journal. There's a lot of old people collecting Social Security. We don't need to thin you down, do we? Yeah, there's a lot of them. We have extra. And if they want me to stop talking about this, don't make it worse every year. I don't tell them all you need to take supplements and you need to get an adjustment. You need to exercise. I don't care if they do that. They keep telling me what I have to have done, and they keep pushing. My kids are older. How many people have young kids in this crowd? Good luck. You're going to be on a battle. You're in a battle right now. My kid was singled out by one of the teachers in Northville about, you had to get shots or you wouldn't have been in the school. Dylan said, I never had shots. So teacher told the class, don't anybody listen to him because he's lying to you because he had shots. So who cares now because my kids are out of school. So my wife went to the principal of Northville the next day. He's a doctor, first initial R, last initial W. I don't want this woman pulling this crap again on my kid, period. Do you have a problem with that? He said, no. She said, why not? He said, my kid had convulsions and seizures after the MMR shot. We didn't have any problem at Northville. I've seen thrombocytopenia. This is the package insert. This lady, now if you came in with Guillain-Barré syndrome, what might that look like in the olden days? Polio? Think that could be a new name for like polio? Maybe a name for multiple sclerosis, but you don't want to say multiple sclerosis because too many people have multiple sclerosis. I've seen every one of these, every single one of these within the last year. Every shock, Stevens-Johnson syndrome, vasculitis, breathing, inflammation. Well, there's a lady in South Lyon, New Beginnings, that had a shot. Her shoulder's paralyzed, and they're going to do a rotator cuff surgery. They said you tore your rotator cuff after her shoulder was destroyed by the flu shot. But this, about a month ago, I'm going to cover these at my next lecture if you want to find out what happened. Patient has transverse myelitis. Patient has constant numbness from upper torso to mid-thigh, unable to feel hot or cold, recovered from Bell's palsy. Her whole spinal cord was swollen. She was a missionary, doing missionary work. She got a hepatitis A, B, tetanus, and typhoid vaccines for a mission trip to the Dominican Republic just before that. I said, Dominican Republic? I said, Dylan's friend Zach goes there for Christmas every year to Punta Cana. I said, it's a vacation destination. They talked you into this to go to the Dominican Republic. I had 3 missionaries in a row for new patients that day. The other one went to Africa. He was, well, how high was the stack of medicals? This high? And he wouldn't shut up. Lord have mercy. He's in Alaska now, so I know he won't see this, but holy Toledo. I let him work over the girls till he about lost his voice before I went in. Then, between these two, he had all the MS, the numbness thing. Between this, right in the middle, was autoimmune hepatitis. And that was, her parents are here right now. That was a hepatitis B shot. 3 in a row. Boom. I'm going to give you some websites to look at later. Loss of speech, social withdrawal, reduced eye contact, repetitive behavior, hand flapping, temper tantrums, sleep stirs, seizures. There's a big difference between those two. Your charts. These are the vaccinated kids, allergies, asthma, etc. I think I went the wrong way. Kelly, I'm going into funk land right now. 1 out of 60, 4 out of 720. Everything quadruples and triples. I can't even imagine this. I mean, this is foreign stuff to me because I didn't raise my kids in the system. I had enough of the system when I was 13. I fired a pediatrician at 13. That was it. I was through with this yo-yo because I was sick. I had the shots, the chemicals, the pills. I was constantly sick. I just said, we're done. I'm never doing this again. And that was it. And at 54, I walked away that long. I don't have any health insurance, and you're not touching the kids. Whatever you did to me, you are not. I lost all my teeth from all the fluoride treatments. So I can't even imagine holding my kid down for 48 doses by the time there's 6. 48 doses. I can't even comprehend that. I don't even know what that's like. And right now they're calling. They're calling. They're making some special phone calls. Some special phone calls. You're getting called now by the CDC. The government's calling. They want to know. And they're going up to your house. Certain counties are going up to your house asking what your kids do. How many people watched like the Thanksgiving game? You know, something strange is going on in this country. I like the guy whose face is painted and he's got the foam finger on. We're number one. You know, the new we're number one guy. Well, what we're really number one in in prisons. We have the highest incarceration, out-of-shape people, divorce rate, television watched, illegal drug use, car thefts, rapes, murders, crime, police officers. We have the most money spent on pharmaceutical drugs, and this is the point. We have the most women on antidepressants than any other country. Student loan debt, my last patient tonight. I'm going to say his name, Mark Hubert was in. And his wife was a cheerleader at Stevenson High School when I graduated. I got to know this guy, he's a nice guy. Asked how the kid's doing, son works at Chase. Daughter just graduated as a pharmacist. And I mean, we have to have pharmacists. There's a lot of necessary things out there that you got to do. I said, how much is your daughter in debt? $200,000. I'm like, oh my gosh. I said, my son can't date your daughter. I said, my son cannot date your daughter. I said, she'll never pay that off. He said, I know she won't. I said, did she have a boyfriend? He said, no. You marry that woman, you owe $200,000. And you can't get rid of it, ever. It will follow you till the day you die. Unbelievable. I went home and told my family, holy cow. Then we're only broke because this donor gave enough money that he got a $433 million experimental smallpox grant. The last case was in 1949. So if you donate to the right people, you can get $433 million to design a drug for a disease that nobody's got. Charlotte, you need one of those. I'm going to get you, before you protest again, you're getting a smallpox shot. So the administration, when the department's lead negotiator for the deal objected, said this is ridiculous. They replaced them. And they also blocked other companies from bidding on the work, so you got a non-competitive contract, one of those Dick Cheney contracts. So, wake up. 32% of organic produce has rocket fuel in it. That's okay. Rockets need fuel too. This is in 32 of the states. So there's a point to this, so that my staff understands. I have very sick people come in every day, and they're really sick, and they always like to say, I eat organic. They say that frequently. My wife eats mostly organic, probably all organic. Hank's Organics in California bought commercial produce, rewrapped it, called it Hank's Organics, and their fine was $52 million because it wasn't Hank's Organics. It was Hank's commercial produce. But what the heck. Kelly wanted me to I wanted this lady here. She ate a salad. Now this is very important. Kelly wanted this story. I wanted the woman here to tell you the story because Donna and her mother come in once a month, get adjusted and fine-tuning some health issues. She said, you should have seen what happened since the last time you were in. What? And she said, I ate a salad. I immediately got sick. Kelly called her to get the details. Hour and a half later, had 101-degree fever and had the chills. By the time she went to ER, fever was 106. She was septic, she took antibiotics, hospitalized 7 days, and I think she said, I got Jennifer's story pretty good. I think she said I had 5 IVs in me at one time. 5. I said, where did they say it came from? She said they didn't know. They had no clue. I said, does your stomach hurt? She said, yes, it does. I said, where does it hurt? She says, right here. I said, does food make it better? Does food make it worse? She said, well, sometimes it's better, and sometimes it's worse. I said, you got to do an ulcer. She had to have, the hospital was oblivious to this. I said, well, how'd you get this? If you take all the bleeding medications, Advil, Motrin, Celebrex, All those little bleeders. Most of you don't even know that the well, Jim was in this old timer, 78 years old, great old timer, playing baseball with his kids. Hit the ball, ripped his Achilles tendon in about half. Had him built up a special shoe, put him on some special supplements, healed it great. Now, he was in Monday, and he's been having dark stool. So I put him on some stuff, and I got him to poop green because the stuff was working. It was covering everything. But, you know, you don't want dark stool. I want you to get scoped to make sure you don't have esophageal cancer or colon cancer. So he was in Monday. He said, I don't have any cancer. He said, they violated both ends in me. He said, I don't have. He said, my stomach is all eroded away. I said, how much Motrin and pain pills did you take for that Achilles? He said, well, I took quite a lot. That really hurt. Well, it eroded his stomach lining so much. So you take all these little medications and have these secret little bleeds. One question got to how that bacteria entered into her bloodstream. She went septic from a salad. Hospital doesn't even think like this. You had to open a door to your bloodstream, and it had to be in your stomach. But the point of the story was, as Larry Moe and Curly worked her over, septicemia only means you got an infection into your bloodstream. It doesn't take rocket science to figure how you did this. It was pretty straightforward. Watch the bleeders. Lots of people are eating little holes in their stomachs. You're getting patients come in with bags of pills, synthetic pills. You want me to read every pill? That's what Kelly and Amy and Kim and Kelly's for. Go in there, let them torture you with all the pills they take, because the ingredients from China, that's not the kind of selenium you want. So people come in with all you want to get. That's the kind of selenium you want. I take 2 of those every day with my nitro. I'm trying to shut those cancer genes off because we all have aberrant genes in our system. Just look at you, for Pete's sakes. That was a joke. Don't. You're not really. I was doing my lecture last night, and I watched anybody see the Jesse James bike thing last night? There, Jesse James against Paul Sr., and it was on. It was Monday and Tuesday. And after that was the Moonshine Wars up in the hills. You want to talk about aberrant gene pools? Holy. Well, after I lost all my teeth and had them all pulled out, and these are implants, and they gave me an infection in my face when I went through the surgery because they put infected cow bone in my face. I didn't even get the clean bone. I got the bad bone. Of course I got the bad bone. Let's look through all the bone over. Let's find the crappy bone. Let's put it in Tent's head. So they did. That was one heck. It took 8 weeks and $1,000 to get the infection out of my face that they engrafted above my palate right here. I can feel it to this day. It's stuck in a spot with no circulation. I killed it in front of Dr. Sturtz, who was a great surgeon. It was not his fault. The bone was bad. He couldn't see that. And I explained how I did it. It totally blew him away because he gave me all these toxic chemicals. You know, maybe you'll die. How they say, don't use fluoride. I remember sitting there for all those little treatments that were free in those gymnasiums. Anybody have the gymnasium tray in your mouth that they take you to the school and put all this crap in your mouth? And you're swallowing it, you're wallowing in it. But I got news for you. You might not have to brush your teeth anymore because Prozac is 94% fluoride. So you folks, nothing against Prozac, just chew it, roll it around your mouth, pull out your brush, grind it right in, spit it out or swallow it, whatever seems to work best, off with the day. Back when I was a young kid, when me and Al Gore invented the internet, yep, I taught him everything he knows. He's an idiot. This, I started before, you know, we had the paper offices. So this has gone from they never knew what PSA was to every man having their PSA tested. Now, all these crippled men are told, oops, we probably shouldn't have done all that. The developer of the PSA test is still alive. Okay? He's still alive. He wishes he'd have kept his mouth shut, etc. So don't get overworked up. They're even telling you not to have your PSA tested. So just to keep this in mind, we've kind of created a mess. I told my father at 86, Dad, you got 5 cancers, 2 tumors, and probably some leukemia. I said, your body doesn't even know it's there, so just keep on going. And if it took 14 years to kill you, maybe you'll die in 8. Don't study yourself to death. They're always going to attack. They're trying to take your supplements away right now. So you've seen that. Everybody's paying attention. That's on the list. They're going to get your pills if they can. I don't know if I can pull this back, because that thing's kind of low today. It doesn't really matter where I stand. Try to get, you want whole food. I have friends that would pay $300 for a motorcycle tire. I have friends that would spend $1,000 on painting a gas tank. And they'd get their synthetic vitamins from Costco. I'm like, this isn't smart. Don't get, expensive stuff and get cheap vitamins. Get expensive vitamins and cheap stuff. It's made by slave labor. You'll be helping out the slaves. I had to put this up. I'm getting to the brain stuff. I had to put this up because this was the largest fine ever. Every year it's like a new benchmark of Vandia. It's a $3 billion fine for this drug scam because patients take this stuff very cockily when they come in. They're pretty impressed with their stuff. Shiny pack, insurance paid for it. They have a lilt in their voice when they talk about all the prescriptions they take and how important they are. They're very proud of their stuff. Very proud of it. Can you imagine how much money you made if you can afford a $3 billion settlement and be happy to be let go? It could increase the chance of heart attacks 43% and that of death by 64%. For the next slide, you get a present anyway, so you're going to get a present. Remember this from the lecture. What drug killed more people in the Vietnam War? Vioxx. The point of the story was how much protesting there was over Vietnam and how nobody said anything. Vioxx actually beat the Vietnam War. And how many people? What does it make you do? It makes you bleed in your stomach and clots and strokes. But they just paid under $1 billion. But, well, you wanted change. You're going to get, the government's going to have your health records. That's going to be helpful. Just get your postcard in the mail. Report to Camp B. Take pill red. Yes. And don't complain. And we'll give you free stuff at the end of the line. Now there's Pisha. I want to clarify this. I said to Kelly, should I put this up? She said yes. I've had patients that antidepressants have saved their life. I've had people that thought it was a lifesaver. I have a lot of patients that said, you got to get me off this stuff. You got to help me get off this stuff. With your doctor's blessing, this is recorded, we have to get Curly's blessing before we... Why? Because my emotions have flatlined. I've had little housewives sitting in front of me. I said, what do you mean flatlined? They said, I'm emotionally dead. It's like, what? Because I'm just dead. I said, could you kill somebody? She said, in a heartbeat. Absolutely. Looking at a grandma, absolutely. Wouldn't even buy. I'd go have a sandwich after that. Wouldn't even think about it. She said, I got to stop this pill. Just that it kind of dulled things that you're supposed to have working in your head. Just kind of some interesting comments. So I want to say there's a lot of positive and negatives to this stuff. If it works for you, great, and I don't want to, rain on anybody's parade. You can read that, suicidal thoughts, feelings of violent behavior. They have suicide warnings on antidepressants. George Carlin would have fun with that if he was still alive. He'd have just a blast with that one, I'm sure. Heart disease and sudden cardiac death. That's huge. Diabetes. We all need something to help us get fatter. Now, how is that going to affect your diabetes? Raise your serotonin, raise your cortisol. Raise your cortisol, you're going to get diabetes faster. Brittle bones, problems with your immune system, stroke, stillbirths. The CDC said, it's on that, I'm going to give you a website to look up. If you get that flu shot while you're pregnant, like you're told to, you'll have a 25x increase in stillbirths and spontaneous abortion. 25 times by their own admission. Death. Drugs that cause depression. Drugs that cause depression. And I'll tell you, cannabis should have been on the list. That's going to make you depressed. Barbiturates, calcium channel blockers, your estrogens. You watch people come in. My son rides motocross. And you watch these motocross kids when they break something, what they put them on, and turn them into complete out-of-control addicts. I've known a number of kids, my son's friends. Cipro, statins. Statins make you depressed. This is WebMD. This is a real site. Now, there's certain drugs that make your brain stop working. What makes your brain stop working? Benadryl, Dramamine. This is that dead laser. That's okay. Benadryl, Dramamine. Excedrin, Nitol, Sominex. Things that shut off choline, anticholinergic drugs. Demerol, Elavil, Paxil. What does that mean? They encourage memory loss. That's what that means. They encourage memory loss. Now, I said that, we and Kelly were going over this complicated subject, and I'm going to start talking about the pills that are in the giveaway. You got to pay attention so you know how to use this stuff. This isn't general stuff. This is specific stuff. Serotonin. There's a sheet in the office for all you patients. Ask for the sheet. Fill it out. We got a couple different sheets for you to fill out. Something on the web. You can grade your brain. I can do expensive tests on you that if you take a good questionnaire, you can kind of find out what high points and low points your brain has. Serotonin. Anybody know anybody like this? Negative. Sees the glass half empty rather than half full. Dark, pessimistic thoughts. Worried and anxious, low self-esteem, lack of confidence. Easily get to feeling self-critical and guilty. Obsessive behavior, difficulty making transitions to be flexible, perfectionist, a neat freak. Computer, TV, or work addict. Dislike the dark weather, have fall-winter depression. Irritable, impatient, edgy or angry. Shy, fearful, panicky about flights, heights, flying in closed spaces, public performances. There's people that find this amazing because they'd rather die than speak in front of a group of people. Snakes, bridges, crowds, leaving the house, anxiety or panic attacks. PMS, hating hot weather, night owls, hard to get to sleep even though you want to, wake up in the middle of the night, restless, routinely like sweet or starchy foods. She said I had to say all this. Find relief from any of the above symptoms through exercise, suicidal thoughts or plans. Dopamine. Cocaine, encourage dopamine. Epinephrine, here's your amphetamines, here's your Adderall, here's your Concerta, here's the ADD medication, here's the fun stuff, the speed the kids like. Depressed, dopamine, different neurotransmitter now, pay attention. Depressed, flat, bored, apathetic kind, low on physical or mental energy, feel tired a lot, have to push yourself to exercise, inability to feel pleasure, drive, enthusiasm, and motivations on the low side, difficulty focusing or concentrating. Put them on speed, they're going to concentrate. Thrill seeker or a risk taker. easily chilled, cold hands or feet, put on weight too easily, you'd feel the need to get more alert and motivated by consuming a lot of coffee or other uppers like sugar, diet soda, ephedra, or cocaine. I know you 50-year-old guys wouldn't know what it's like to do cocaine. Yeah, right. I'm 54. GABA. I had a relative recently. Two things will make you have seizures. One of my relatives watched one of his friends seize taking Xanax. They took too much Xanax, so he had a seizure. So I got to stop taking Xanax. So he stopped taking Xanax, and he had a seizure when he stopped taking Xanax. So they picked him up in the ambulance. Took us as an out-of-state relative, took him to the hospital. I got a call. I said, put him on GABA, 1 an hour as soon as he wakes up from his Xanax-induced coma. And I pounded him on GABA, and he's off the Xanax now. And alcohol is another one. You can seize on alcohol withdrawals also. So these are the uptight people. Body tend to be stiff, uptight, easily frustrated or snappy under stress. Put weight on easily, feel overwhelmed or just can't get it all done. Feel weak or shaky, panic attacks, severe anxiety. These are the people that want tobacco, alcohol, food, or drugs to relax and calm down. Endorphins. We're back to the methadone, the OxyContin, the codeine, the opiates. These people they're sensitive, they have emotional pain, physical pain, tear, cry easily, tend to avoid painful issues. So when you get this DVD, you can go over this slower because I got to move through this. Crave pleasure, comfort, reward, enjoyment, or numbing from treats like chocolate, bread, wine, romance novels, marijuana, tobacco, or lattes. Now, the reason this is going to touch everybody, I have to say something because I skipped something. I did a lecture a long time ago, and I want the old timers to take this DVD out because there's a little more detail. Secret history of the essential fatty acids, or why people are so depressed. How many people in this crowd know for a fact that their parents took the essential fatty acids when they were pregnant with them? Raise your hand. How many know their parents? How many women in this crowd took the 91 things to have children? I can 1, 2, 3 out of this crowd. So, Grandma gave you cod liver oil for a reason. Well, for example, I'm going to tell this short. I'm going to use her name. Ida Briggs had trouble conceiving. They said she's infertile. These are hard things to deal with, but she had twins. I got to tell you this 1-minute story. She had twins at 7 months, at 40. She did our pregnancy protocol, 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, and 3 essential fats. 91 things. Did it, was carrying twins. Gave birth to both of them early at 7 months. They broke the records, they broke the charts, and they're in preemie studies right now. Because nobody could believe they grew, they're big, they're intelligent, they played the piano, they stick out from kids that went full term. So Ida's on a mission, isn't she, gals? Ida's on a mission in a preemie study at the hospital. Did you find out what hospital it was? It's probably best that we don't. So she's collected all the data, she's done all the research, she's got the package, she wants to start a foundation. I mean, she's really into helping other children. She wants to help these preemies because the kids are all messed up and she has perfect children. So she put all her stuff together, went to the head of the hospital in the preemie study, laid all this stuff down, and he said to her, there's no literature to support vitamins and minerals on children. And she looked at him, what do you mean there's no literature? This is what the big shot at the hospital said. So she came in with the air half out of her balloon. You're not going to believe what this guy said about this preemie study, that we don't need vitamins and there's no literature to support what I just did with the kids. I said, there isn't, eh? I said, all right. I said, I want you to call Michigan State. I want you to call the veterinarian school, and I want you to ask the head of veterinarian medicine if you think anything that the vitamins and minerals on the animals have anything to do with their proper growth, formation, development, and birth. And he's going to laugh at you. He said, of course it does. Selenium got rid of muscular dystrophy. Copper got rid of all the aneurysms. The zinc, folic acid with the spine. You take an animal up there that's sick, they're going to tell you what minerals he missed in the womb. They're going to tell you what genetic factors. The whole place is built on the nutritional requirements that the animal industry does. The hospital doesn't think this has any factor, and the animals get care that your kids never had, ever. That's what 2011 looks like to organized medicine. Unbelievable. Now, if you have a lot of serotonin and it's well stocked, you're positive, confident, flexible, easygoing. If you don't have any, you're negative all the time, obsessive, irritable, low confidence, and sleeplessness. Catecholamines, here are your uppers. We're going to be uppers. Now, start paying attention because I'm going to start getting into the supplements that you can use to compensate. So the point, I got to segue into one thing. When your parents didn't take the right supplements and you were born, your brains have half the neurotransmitters because they never developed right. They have half the serotonin. They have half the dopamine. They have half the GABA. I have all these kids in my office, they're 14, they're 16. They're coming to get adjusted, and a parent's like, he's depressed. How can you be depressed at 15? Those are the best years of my life. You're depressed at this age? These kids are miserable. Their brains didn't develop right. So people are like, well, what's next? Well, they're sterile next. You're watching a generation that's infertile behind them. When I grew up, everybody had kids. If you adopted somebody, you adopted them because you wanted to help out a situation. Today, they can't reproduce. Their body is sterilized itself. They're too weak to turn over. You're watching the last generation here before infertility. It's the end of things. People are dead. Their genetic turnover is done. It's incredible. So the people, we all have these little deficits. This is where the drugs came in. If you want your kids to stay away from drugs, you better have healthy neurotransmitters. You're trying to plug holes in stuff that you can't produce enough of. That's why you bungee jump. That's why you turn on Jackass and watch what these stupid kids do to try to get their brain working, because it's dead. It's dead. 12 energy drinks to get it to go. I pull up next to a car, listen to that crap coming through the window, the music from hell. Good heavens. You pound on that crap, with the windows vibrate, I guarantee you'll drive your catecholamine straight up. I want to take you, if you feel as run down as these kids, put some of that crap on the radio. By the time you get to school, you will be awake before you take your Adderall to get you the rest of the way awake. That's what this does. That's why Red Bull, it's on the news this week. Energy drinks, they're drinking this crap. There's so much stuff in it that, see, Coke and Pepsi has a limit to what they can do. The energy drinks don't. So if you have enough dopamine, energized, upbeat, alert, focused, lethargic, flat, blah. There's 3 GABA in the crowd. I'm going to show you my favorite endorphin pill. GABA is relaxed, stress-free, uptight, overwhelmed, stressed. Endorphins, that's your narcotics. Endorphins are your natural narcotics. GABA is your relaxants. Everybody likes comfort, pleasure, euphoria. Overly sensitive, it's set to crying easily. Common neurotransmitters in the brain. Wally Schmidt did a great job with this. I got to give credit to Wally because I stole some of Wally's stuff in seminars that I go to. And now, when food makes you, I'm not going to cover this one, histamine in the top corner. Certain foods you can eat can really drive your moods down. I'm going to talk to Dr. Jeff about doing some muscle testing with you folks in his little private seminars about how to determine foods that could affect brain chemistry. So certain foods you eat can really bother your moods, and I've got really time to talk about that. Norepinephrine is noradrenaline. It's an adrenaline precursor. Serotonin we talked about, GABA, these are the important ones. Epinephrine is another word for adrenaline. You can find your neurotransmitters in certain fluids. So most of your serotonin is produced in your colon, not your brain. Nerve transmission is important. It takes 3 to 8 vitamin and mineral cofactors to activate neurotransmitters. This is what your brain looks like. You produce your little neurotransmitters. It goes across the little gap. I got some slides for the technical people. 3 types of neurotransmitter-related depression. Serotonin are the anxious, depressed people. They're anxious and they're depressed. Norepinephrine, the adrenaline lows, Schmidt called it lower than a snake's belly on the ground. And then there's the food allergy depression. Now this is very important. Tryptophan is the precursor to the downers. Everything going this way in your brain starts at tryptophan, which is an amino acid. Serotonin, melatonin, GABA. So you got your tryptophan, then you got your 3 to 8 vitamin mineral cofactors, which you'll see help make GABA, melatonin, and serotonin. Now this is my morning to come in and to talk about, I'm going to go walk in and have a 5-year-old that's not talking yet after they've annihilated him. Then in the next room, I got grandma. By the time they got through with grandma, she ain't talking any better than a 5-year-old. Then in the next room, my doctor says you're a quack. And in the next room, if you saw the Dr. Tent, I had to take all those pills because the TV said to. Honest to goodness. Honest. And TV said I should be scared about this, so I am. I just roll my head. I'm trying not to insult you, but I want to insult you. The TV said they wouldn't lie to us on TV. Fox News wouldn't exaggerate anything. You're all going to die from the Al-Qaeda. My whole day. My whole day. Like the lady, this wonderful, she's going to see this. She'll shoot me by the car. This wonderful African-American woman. She's 78. She comes in with stage 4 kidney failure. Stage 4. She said the atenolol and the actinol caused my kidney failure, and the doctors told me that. I said, you're still taking it? Yes. Why? He told me to. Your kidneys are failing from it, and he said that. I know. I look at the girls. I want to bang my head into the wall, but it would be a waste of my head against the wall. So playing my neurotransmitters to every single day. I had to get the tetanus shot. Now, my body's been sick for 6 months. But I said, nobody's got tetanus. I mean, it's not like a... We have fun when my son has needed stitches for motocross or injuries when they start scaring me about a disease nobody's ever seen. Ooh, it's the weapons of mass destruction. They're going to get all of us. You can't live your life in these unrealistic fears. This is every day, all day. I'm going to irritate people in the waiting room, but that's what this is for. Tyrosine, I don't really want this one. I want the bottom one. Tyrosine are the uppers. It's the base for the uppers. Norepinephrine leads to epinephrine. That leads to dopamine. You're going to see the little... So I got to calm down the top. This is where it starts. This is your amino acid. From there, I take 6, gives me the material to start to make dopamine, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. Oops. I take 6 of those in the morning, and there is, I think 6 of those, it's an amino acid. It's tyrosine. There's 6 in the gift thing. So I take 6 of those in the morning, and I'm going to go through 5-HTP. Now, when I got to get people off certain things, I got to treat their brain a specific way. Then I got to start sliding this into the gap. Serotonin. 5-HTP is a precursor to serotonin. You got 3 to 8 vitamin and mineral cofactors to make this happen. There's a bunch of those in the gift bag also. Take that with food. It can give you some indigestion on an empty stomach. 5-HTP. Now, the most important are folic acid and B6. That takes that amino acid and starts the process. If you don't have enough folic acid and B6, you're going to have trouble converting these amino acids into your neurotransmitters. You have to, that's the two most important vitamins and mineral cofactors, and we'll get to the rest. This is in the sac. You got B6, very important. They want this pill on the left here, your left, they're trying to make that a prescription. I don't got time to talk about why, but they're trying to get that one out of your hands for what that thing does. There's a world about B6 phosphate in the kidneys. You got folic acid, B12. These things are all in the gift thing. You're going to win some of these. My kids like a B12 lozenge. All you old timers, if you took that B12 lozenge, dissolved it, and swallowed it, you'd have energy. Every one of those would give you that would surprise you to the middle and the right how much better you'd feel doing that because you don't absorb it that well at this age. Dopotropic. Now there's illegal ways to raise dopamine, but that's going to get you in trouble, and it's not going to last very long. Believe me, a lot of us have tried that. I take 2 teaspoons of that in my protein shake in the morning. I like to push my dopamine. Now remember something, let me ask you a question. How many people in this crowd, I want to ask you a question, personally know somebody that committed suicide? If you know somebody personally that committed suicide, raise your hand. Everybody in the crowd. How many people don't know anybody personally that committed suicide? Raise your hand. In 31 years, I've had 8 patients, and they're all men, and some were surprises. You know, you hear about these surprises. Now, the point is, the military, we're losing more in the military every year than the Al-Qaeda's getting. It's kind of, when I grew up by 6 in Inkster. I grew up in Livonia, 6 in Inkster, 7 in Middle Belt. My parents are still there, that little corner right there. When I was growing up, 5 fathers committed suicide in that subdivision. When I was growing up, I can name them. Amazing. 5. That was kind of shocking when you're growing up. I can name every one of them. That was kind of creepy back then. I like that. That and the tyrosine goes together with a couple other things I'm going to mention. In my life, I spend 1/3 of my stuff, of my money on my health for my brain. I spend 1/3 on my immune system and 1/3 on my general supplements. This is all I care about in the morning is getting my brain pointing in the right direction, because the guy that taught me most of my craft, he had a nervous breakdown. So I won't mention his name because he's still alive, but at 20 years of age, with my kind of practice, he snapped. And he thought he was Napoleon, and he was gone for 2 years, and I met him after he came back, and he shook. My Uncle Wally snapped. My Uncle Wally was a big shot at General Motors. And they took him to Northville, put the old electrodes to his head, and hooked up the old car battery, and just fried him till, okay, I'm not depressed, just stop. Don't do this anymore. Kind of had a strange look in his eye after that. So he was a big shot. I asked him, why did you snap? When I got old enough to ask him, what happened to you? He said, I had to get rid of 200 men permanently, 200 executives at General Motors permanently. And it took him 6 months, and by the time he got done with that, he was talking to himself in a corner, and there was nobody listening. And GM loved my Uncle Wally. He was a big shot. I've been out to dinner with some of the executives, with the vice chairman of General Motors. We were out in his limo, me and my father. And this guy's driving, and he knew he was taking out Mr. Devine, my dad and me, and he turned over and looked at us. Are you by any chance related to Walter Tent? I said, well, that's my uncle. He said, my dad worked here and talked about your uncle all the time. That was the chauffeur for Uncle Wally. He was a character. He was a character. But that's what the pressure did to him. For the chemical people, people like chemistry, this is, I want you to watch what you got to have. Tyrosine, B6, folic acid, niacin. Dopa, B6. Dopamine, ascorbic acid, copper, is tyrosinase enzyme, which you get in vitamin C. And you got your methyl donors. This is for the chemical people. This is how your brain works. Tryptophan, we're back to B6, folic acid. Goes to 5-HTP. I'll give you a secret now, because I don't know if this is, when they took tryptophan off the market, 5-HTP did the same thing, and they never got to it. So everybody thought you couldn't get tryptophan. No, you couldn't. They arrested it. They arrested an amino acid. In the month they arrested an amino acid was the month all the antidepressants came out. So you can't use tryptophan because everybody was using it. So now they want you on the other stuff. 5-HTP works just like that. In fact, it's an intermediate step. Now, on the right, with it's working, yes. These are the uppers to the hormones and the neurotransmitters. These are the downers, uppers, downers. It's pretty easy to see how you're wired and what you want to do. Amino acids, your liver takes, these are transamination, you need zinc, magnesium, phosphorus, and B2. Dopamine synthesis, these are your feel-good. I love to play my neurotransmitters. I do this every single morning. I get up, I go downstairs. First thing, I start firing up my brain to take, another day of John Q. Public. Adrenal support, there's raw adrenal, the adrenal complex. I love the pill to the right, epinephrine. I take 2 of those in the morning. My thyroid gets me up in the morning. My adrenals get me through the day. That's where my energy comes from. I would rather do this. How many people worked in corporate America? Raise your hands. If I had to work in corporate America with you, I would have hung myself in the closet. My dad's retired friends would come in. You know what it's like? They could take an hour to explain something a self-employed person could explain in a minute. Girls get to screen them. So when the good old boys from GM, Ford, and Chrysler, the old retirees come in, Lord have mercy. I totally understand why the jobs went where they did. It can take them an hour to explain how they threw their back out. Lord have mercy. Do a project with them at home. The flow charts and my dad, we'd argue over hedge clippers. Read the instructions. They're hedge clippers. I don't need to read the instructions. Yes, you got to read the instructions. It's just a hedge clipper. It goes back and doesn't do anything. People ask, does your dad do this? No, I would have never done this if he did this. And projects around the house were horrible, horrible. I would have went nuts. And how many people have relatives like that? Am I making this up? You know exactly what I'm talking about. We can't get to explain it. More back adrenal support. Memory. Memory. These are the vitamins and minerals you need to make your memory work. Now, that's for the older folks. If you want to encourage acetylcholine, that's the 2 pills you take. That helps that part of your brain. And remember, your brain likes fish oil. And you're doing this because your mom didn't take any fish oil when she was carrying you, so your brain's dull. My brain's dull. I said, if I could go back in time, have my parents take all the 91 things that so many kids did, so many of my parents did, and my patients, how many people wishes they could start over nourishing themselves before they had kids? So my mom goes to the pediatrician. He gives them that little orange bottle, that prescription bottle. There's 18 things in it. I couldn't grow a worm with 18 things. Well, this is all you need. You get all your stuff from your toxic food. It's ridiculous. I'm watching. Memory. More chemistry for the technical, for the engineers at Ford. This is for my engineers. You can cross-check it, you can analyze it, you can take it apart, you can get all your friends together, you can vote on it. You can have a meeting, a special meeting on this. Back, we're getting there. All these pills. Now, this is important. When you eat a bunch of carbs, you're going to get tired because they increase your tryptophan. Tryptophan. That increases this. Your protein increases tyrosine. The one you eat the most of is going to win at the brain. Eat the carbs, you're going to get tired. Eat the protein, you're going to wake up. I had a filet mignon today. I'm very fussy about what I eat on lecture day. I went and had an expensive filet because Ponderosa's closed. What I spent on lunch, I could eat 4 times at Ponderosa today. If you increase your carbs, you're going to want more protein. If you increase your protein, you're going to want to eat carbs. They self-regulate themselves. Eat a bunch of carbs, you're going to have a craving for protein. Eat a bunch of protein, you're going to want some carbs. Very interesting self-regulating system. This goes back and forth, just explanation on this. You know, when I was in Livonia, I can remember when my buddy Ron came to the door and said, Quadlin shot himself. I said, really? Broke up with a girlfriend, took a bunch of Quaaludes, something, and shot himself right on the bridge at Botsford. Right? I live in Livonia. It's right at that light on 7 Mile between Middle Belt and Inkster. Went on the bridge. Kids found him going to school in the morning. He was a crazy kid. He corrupted my entire subdivision. He was way ahead of his time. Kevin was a loose cannon. His father wasn't around, and holy Toledo. One kid can take down the subdivision, and Kevin did a heck of a job, and he took down the sub all right. Remember, I want you to picture a 7th grader hitchhiking down the street with a Sears shopping bag with a pound of weed in it. 7th grade. Kevin would jump out of the car. What are you doing? You get, what's in the bag? 7th. Look at the 7. I look at 7th graders that come in the office and look at them. I have flashbacks to Kevin. Stealing cars. He was shooting them, found needles in the car. He crashed them. He took downers. Now, why people would take downers? If you want to be down, turn on the news. I mean, Fox will take you right down. GABA drugs. Remember, all these drugs work with stuff. You have your own pharmaceuticals in your head. If you know how to work them, you don't need all this crap. Your brain makes them. You just got to know how to push the right buttons. All these things work with stuff you already had. And you take the stuff, you shut the stuff off. Snort cocaine for 6 months and try to quit. You'll be miserable. Take Xanax for 6 months, try to quit. You're gonna, all these neurotransmitters shut off. Ativan, Librium, Klonopin. I got people with ADD on Klonopin, Librium, Xanax, Halcyon. That's what Bush took when he puked all over the Chinese dude, was that? Thank God they got him out of there. Just pick him up, take him out. He ain't smart enough to talk to him anyway. Give him a drug, Cheney will steer the show. Let me have the switch. He did all right. He had the switch. Amazing. Guy writes a book, 400 or 500 pages, looks over his life, didn't make a mistake, didn't do a thing wrong. And men that looked, honest men said, I regret some things I did last week. Not the Dixter. He's done it straight from day one. Drugs. Hockey games, I'll take 2 of either one of those and about 10 Mintran. As soon as I get off the ice at hockey, 10, 11 o'clock games, I gotta sleep. I gotta be rested to tackle the public. I have to be rested to tackle the public. Great ways to help calm down. I wanted to explain this to my veteran patients, for all you women out there and some men that have trouble holding water. If you hold water, I want you to try, ask the girls in the front. It's going to be a good water pill. I wish I always had something that worked like a Lasix or a Diazide to get water out of these people. Because those things, when you need to get water out now, they work great. If you don't and you have an emergency to get it out, try that pill. You might be impressed. Back to a lot of GABA. Now, be careful. Again, we're talking about that food thing. I was taking some of that the last 3 days because I think I ate something funny and I didn't want to poop my pants in the middle of my lecture. That would have really been a downer. I would have had to take extra GABA or something. The food today, jump all over the food. If you think you ate something nasty, attack. Because the stuff you're going to get today isn't like the salmonella of yesterday. The news says 3 times a week that there's poop in the food. They say constantly. Do they not say this? Am I making this up? Do they not say this? There's E. coli, there's Listeria, there's salmonella. They're recalling everything. And you know why they're recalling everything? You know why they're doing this? To shut down the small farmers so Monsanto controls your food. That's what it's all about. One person controls your food, you're in trouble. We're in trouble for a while. That's a lecture, an old lecture that will get into the brain, what happened to brain chemistry from improper prenatal nourishment. It's at the office. Protein, carbs. A special type of brain person. I have treated 700 patients with eyes like that. 700. Look at those eyes. I could walk through the crowd and point out every single one of you who's like this. I could sit in a restaurant and point them all out. I can point out your kids. These are my patients who torture themselves. They have a million thoughts going through their head at once. They ruminate their thoughts. They over and over and over. They can't let nothing go. And I can ask them, how many thoughts go through your head? 10, 100, million? How many? They'll tell you. I can tell by your eyes. So a simple mineral deficiency, genetic. Sarah Palin, I want you to picture Sarah Palin staring straight on at you. She's got a busy brain. I got one thought going through my head at a time, and I'm lucky to have one thought. That's the eyes of somebody who has genetic, $100. There's mental illness in that family. I can spot the eyes. Some of these people are brilliant. I have one guy, 48 years old, sold his company for $17 million. He came in on 8 medications. He ran 1,200 employees, 3 cell phones, 2 beepers, a big expensive car. And I walked in, he was all drugged out because he had so much money, he went to all the doctors to try to find out what's wrong. He had a busy brain. So they just drugged him to death. I said, your biggest mistake was selling your company. His wife looked at him and said, I told you. I told you not to sell that. They waved $17 million in front of his face. I'll take it. So now he's got 10 million thoughts and he's got nothing to do. It was a curse to him. He drives up in a convertible green Lamborghini. So he was in a while back and I said to him, don't come up here in that car anymore. He said, why? I said, they think it's mine. Pull it around to the back next time. So I have car dealers in Birmingham that have dealerships. And our kid, ready? When you see a child of one of these two with those eyes, if the kid can't handle the thoughts that dad can, he's on Concerta in the morning, they're on Paxil at lunch, and they're on Klonopin for dinner. 3 different parts of their brain. I call it a chemical straitjacket. Boom. So I have a ton of rich people whose kids went to all those doctors because of all their squirrely little thoughts. And by the time they got through with them, they were a mental mess. You can tell because they got the money to afford all those pills. I can spot the eyes when I walk in the room. I think Catherine Zeta-Jones' thing was, I am not ashamed. No, but you went to the nut bin. So what she's taking now, it's just beautiful eyes. They're just busy eyes. Can't shut your brain off. I've had patients on this tell me I went from 100 thoughts to 1 in 48 hours. The monkey chatter's gone. Monkey chatter. That was one of my favorite ones. That goes with GABA. You have a bunch of those today. Now, this morning, I took 5 Cataplex B and 5 Cataplex G to start all these B vitamins rolling through my head. I get my magnesium from my chlorophyll. I get my niacin there. I get my phosphorus in the pill I take because all these guys in my hockey league like break their legs and stuff. I'm treating myself for bone density now. Just lost every year. Last year, a guy had a heart attack out of my league. This year, Greg, God bless him, I played with him 2 years ago, head-to-head collision, split his head open. He's still mumbling. He did that the first week in October. Took up a collection for this dude because he ain't right yet. He's a real nice guy, too. He said, cracked his head open. It's like people are fragile today. Are people not fragile today? You know, I can tell you people are fragile. When we were little kids and somebody broke something, they put them in a cast, they healed in 3 to 4 weeks. Now it's plates, pins, and screws. Plates, pins, and screws. Plate, pins, and screws, and they still don't heal right. I had one today. Fell, broke both bones in her leg, rock climbing. This is today. Foot was hanging by a piece of flesh. And I know she's a warrior. She's 68 or 69. I know she's she shouldn't have broken her leg that bad. So I walked in. I said, you had a hysterectomy? She said, yes, I did. I said, how young? She said, young. So how old are you? I think she said 68. When was your mother going to menopause? Well, whatever. 55, 58. When did you have the hysterectomy? Oh, 40. All right. 40 to 55 is 15 years. So you started menopause at 40. So at 68, your bones are 83. She should have never broken her leg that bad. So start menopause artificially at 37. Start it at 41 when you should have started at 58. The clock starts ticking if you don't aggressively support your bones. That's the secret. I said, I went through 5 things. I said, well, you take a lot of acid-blocking medication. You take a bunch of steroids. You either have had an early hysterectomy or you got to know you're taking too much thyroid medication. Which one is it? She said the first one. I said this before, when Maglio Ordonez slid into home plate and broke his ankle on a slide that Kelly did 1,000 times in college and never broke her ankle. People are fragile. Well, they got rid of the diving boards and the trampolines, and the kids can't play dodgeball. Now they can just roll like a marble back and forth on the floor. Be careful! He could come unwrapped at any minute. I'm glad I didn't grow up now. My favorite narcotic, I take 4 rhodiola and Korean ginseng. That's a little higher end pill. I love my rhodiola. That's the Russians use that, all their athletes. I go after my dopamine, my endorphins, and my serotonin with a protein shake and Cataplex B every day. I push 3 parts of my brain up, get my blood sugar stable, put those precursors in there, and I'm mentally awake at 8 o'clock in the morning by the time I walk in, and I have to do this every day because I don't want to end up talking to myself when I'm in a room all alone. Your brain loves magnesium. That's the only thing that I've showed you. It's not on the list. GABA, we kind of covered that. You can get the handouts or like at the office to fill out your stuff. I take 2 of those on work days. I need my serotonin up. Now 5-HTP is for anxiety and depression. 5-HTP, restless depression. I just want my serotonin up. I want to be anxious to get through my day. I don't want the relaxing part of the 5-HTP because I'll actually sit down and talk to the salaried retirees. I don't want to talk to them. Spit it out. Let's move along. There's your flu support. 5 drops in my shake. I need liquid sunshine in my head because we're starting the nuclear winter. I like to cram the sunshine in my soul. I do 5 drops a day. Keep the sunshine up. Your D, you'll be surprised what your moods will do if you get much. You don't want vitamin D2. You want that emulsified D. Works very well. I had my parents. 5 drops is a lifeguard dose. It's a lifeguard dose. I like my minerals. That's how genetic expression. This is the key that lady had the twins on. That was her key. Her Catalin, her minerals. She did 2 oils and a macro mineral. Micro rare earth, macro mineral, Catalin, and 2 different oils. She had perfect twin preemies at 40. And they have no interest in how she did it because there's no literature that nutrition helps human beings. I took that at lunch with that filet. It cost a fortune. I would encourage you, this is a great YouTube. And I'm going to use some clips from this at my next lecture if you want to preview. It's going to make you look, let's put it this way, I'll give you a tip. It's going to make you look at Roe versus Wade a little differently. Roe versus Wade. Strange stuff, creepy stuff, well done. Understanding the Times, Walt does a great job. I would encourage you to watch his series on the web. Sitting there, the Glow Tracks app, it's this, when you're sitting there, download this on your phone, your iPad, they're free. I think it can give you some uplifting literature in a very down spiraling world. Now, in the handouts, I have a local company. I see this husband and wife and their children. The burn. For my serious exercise patients, there's 2 of these speed bags, and this is, look up theburnmachine.com if you're a serious exercise person. I told him, he donated some stuff, and I said, we'll be happy to put that up. Burnmachine.com. I have a patient that she said, can you put me at your lecture? I said, yes. She's doing some plastic surgery, and she's very committed. I told her you could experiment on Mike Spangler a lot. He had a lot of work that he needed done, upstairs and downstairs, Mike. Bonnie, raise your hand. Where's Bonnie? If anybody, this lady wrote a book. She's been a patient for how many years?
Since you started in the basement with 17 people.
20, 25 years. She wrote a book. She went through the foster system in Canada. My wife's read it. Kelly, how much do you got left to go? 30 pages. If you want to read an incredible story that's true to life, what it's like to be taken, she has an incredible story. The stovepipe. You're going to see a lot about this. She's at Amazon. And spend your life listening to a family through the stovepipe as a foster kid. Taken away from the family, thrown into an attic, and spending most of your life listening to a family experience life through the pipe in the attic. It's an incredible story. You know, and she's normal, which is strange. I got people with a good life that are all screwed up. I don't know how she's normal. She has incredible. She's got her books, a book signing thing. It's an incredible story. Real life is, you know, stranger than fiction. She'll be out in the lobby. Christmas ideas, earthing pads, the stuff that we talked about. Try to make your Christmases count this year. I wanted to thank, I got to make a quick rundown. I want to thank Standard Process and Biotics and Millennium for donating all these things, 161 things. I want to make sure I mentioned everything on this list. You got some SP Complete. There's 6 of those, which is what I make my shake with in the morning. That's my whole food complex. Just want to mention the ones I didn't mention yet. The GABA 500, I mentioned that. I think I covered everything on this list. A stovepipe, they got 2 books. The Thermoscan, there's a Thermoscan, there's some foot baths, there's some Asira, things at the office, some DVDs, and I think that covers most everything that I talked about. So learn I think the best thing you can do for Christmas, if all your neurotransmitters are running correctly, you really don't need to fill your life with a lot of stuff today if your brain's working correctly. So I want to thank everybody for coming, and I'm going to go over a complicated lecture in the spring.